Michael Lee from The Athletic writes about Elton Brand and the 76ers. Is Elton Brand the guy that is being tapped on the shoulder to get this team over the hump? Are they there? Good piece, Michael Lee from The Athletic. And he jumps on to talk about the 76ers in the NBA Eastern Conference with us now. He's been at a lot of Sixer games this year. So, Michael, you've seen this team up close and personal a lot. And I think a lot of people kind of understand what this team is. And you wrote about Elton Brand. And I wonder, is there a lot on his plate right now to try to figure out a way? He got them Jimmy Butler, but is there a lot of pressure on him to get them over the hump this year? Or are they patient with this team?
They can't be patient. They stopped being patient the moment they made the Jimmy Butler trade. That was the end of patience. That was the beginning of saying we're a team that's in this to try to win it. And, that doesn't mean that's not the last move, and it shouldn't be the last move. And I don't think anybody in the organization believes that was the final piece that's going to turn this team into a championship contender. But they all believed after that second-round run last year that they were just one star away from being a true contender. It still remains to be seen if Jimmy is that guy. But they definitely believe that now that they have him in the fold, that it's up to everybody else to get it together so that they can make it work. Because, they're trying to get into that hunt. And, they're not that far off from being one of the top 3 teams or top 4. They're definitely one of the top 4 teams already in the East. Getting past, Toronto. And I still think Boston is the sleeping giant in the conference, but they feel like they're right there.
Michael, I know I want to talk more about the article because I think Brand's an interesting piece to all of this. But last night they go on the road, they beat Indiana. Does that say anything? Does that do it? The way they beat Minnesota, they got a brutal 14-game stretch coming up. They've come out of the gates looking pretty darn good, beating Minnesota handily. I thought they handled the Pacers pretty well last night. Did that game last night did you put them in a different light? Because they've been coming up short in a lot of those games.
Because I think, honestly, that was the way that they're going to have to play if they're going to be, the team that they expect to be. They're going to have to share the ball. They're going to have to get Jimmy to be aggressive. That's the one thing I think everybody's sort of been waiting to see. He had an incident or frustration with Brett in Portland during that film session, but I think everybody within the organization has sort of been waiting to see Jimmy just sort of stop sitting back and just, have those moments where he just takes over. And he did that. And I think you saw, they needed it too because Ben was having a rough shooting night. But just seeing that aggressiveness from him, that's what they're going to need, especially come playoff time. But that's the way they're going to have to play. And, you're right. They're in the middle of a really brutal stretch the next 10, 11 games against all teams that are fighting for playoff spots or in, pretty good position for the playoffs. And it's going to kind of prove exactly just what this team is worth. And it's coming at the right time because once it's over, or once they play Toronto, the trade deadline is like 2 days later. Yeah. So they're going to have to they're going to see what they're all about. But I think even no matter whether they, go 6-6 through this or 7-5 or whatever through this stretch or even better, they know they need to get some more help if they're really going to be a team that's right there in the mix at the end.
Michael Lee, senior writer for The Athletic, at Mr. Michael Lee on Twitter. What is your opinion of what the trade market and the buyout market? The Sixers struck gold in the buyout market. Do you feel that either of those two avenues are going to be prosperous, or is Elton Brand going to have to get more creative?
I think he's going to have to be more creative. Last year, they called a genie in a bottle. They got lucky, or lightning in a bottle. They got lightning in a bottle by getting Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli to the buyout market. Those are two players that came in and just fit perfectly with what they're trying to do. And just there was no really adjustment period. They got there, and the team just took off, and just became just a truly elite squad, during that stretch. I don't think anybody saw that from them. It was like it kept stretching on. I was like, wow, this team just tells you just how well it all came together with those guys. So I just feel like Elton's going to have it's going to be difficult because there are so many teams that are in playoff contention. There are so many teams that are sort of in that position where they can't just give up on their roster, because if they do, they could miss out on a playoff position. And the incentive for tanking isn't there that it used to be, because the odds of moving up in the lottery are better for teams that are more competitive. So it's going to require some really creative means to get it done. But I know he does have the resources, and he has the support of ownership to try to make something happen for sure.
Michael, what are some of the interesting things you found out about Elton and how he kind of got to this spot? Because, they brought him in here a couple of years ago to kind of sit on the bench and just kind of babysit, it seemed like, because of what was going on. Next thing you know, it's like, all right, he's got a job with the G League team, and now he's the head of a team that many people look at as an NBA Finals possibility.
Yeah, it's a crazy jump for him. I think when he wound up rejoining the Sixers 3 years ago, I think part of it was in the back of his mind that, it could be an opportunity for him to learn, under Brian Colangelo, and just figure out, if that's the avenue he wants to go. And it wound up being something that was really appealing to him. It was really challenging to him.
So this isn't something he thought would be his second career. Like, hey, I'm going to be running a franchise. Like, that's not what he envisioned. That's
not what he envisioned during his playing career. But I think, in Atlanta, he was a player there in the front office there, sort of planted a seed for him to sort of give him something to think about. And then when he was sitting out for a while before the Sixers called, he was like, well, maybe that's something I want to pursue. The Sixers called, and they asked him to come in, like you said, to be a babysitter. And then that's when he sort of moved in that direction where maybe he'd want to run a team. But I don't think he expected it to happen soon. And when you look at the circumstances in which it happened with Brian Colangelo and the burner accounts, I don't think he anticipated that it would be this fast. The thing that struck me in talking to him and just in observing him is just how willing he was to, say, take a role in the G League. And I asked him about it, and just how, he was able to kind of humble himself and, like, take that kind of job. And he was just like, he's been through so much in his career, and just being a number one pick and being a rookie of the year and just kind of hitting the lows of being amnestied and of, signing for the league minimum and being seldom used, that kind of stuff. Going through that, it helps you understand that, you're only on top for a while, and then you got to figure out what you're going to do from there. And so I think that he paid his dues. He's been humbled by the league, but he also still has that competitiveness and that passion that's going to push him at this new challenge in his career, his life.
Michael, as the trade deadline comes, what is maybe a story that interests you over the next 2.5 weeks?
I still want to figure out what's going to happen with Carmelo Anthony. I know he's been kind of ghost for a while, and it feels like eventually he's going to wind up somewhere, maybe with LeBron in LA or something. But I feel like he's somebody that if he finds the right situation could actually help a team. I don't think he's done. I think even if you look at him in Houston, he was a poor fit, but he had his moments there. And he's not just some complete total scrub. He's just not what he used to be. And I think that's sort of a difficult thing for guys to deal with, is that because in his mind, he probably still feels like I'm Melo the All-Star, but everyone else can look at him and they know that he's not on that level. So I think he's sort of been humbled by what's happened, the last couple of months, from being, traded and cut, and and then now being sort of ostracized or kicked aside, again. I think that maybe he'll come back a little fired up next time. So he stands out, and obviously the story of all stories this season that sort of dominated everything is what's going to happen with Anthony Davis and the Pelicans. I think they are probably well within their rights to just keep him in their uniform until his contract expires. I don't think you ever trade a guy that good, but I'm sure there'll be teams trying to do everything they can in the next couple of weeks to try to get him so they can let him test out a new city for a year before he decides what to do when he becomes a free agent.
Would Carmelo be a fit with Philly?
I mean, it depends on his role, but I don't know. I think he could be a stretch forward type for them. But I don't know in terms of all the personalities that you have in the locker room. Just you already got enough going with Joe and Ben and Jimmy. I'm not sure if adding Carmelo to the mix would be But I think just from a basketball perspective, if he's coming off the bench and he has just a role as being a stretch big, I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
That would be interesting to see if they would go that route. And the Sixers obviously looking to improve. They get a big win last night over Indiana. They're now tied. Boston, 3 back of those teams now. Toronto, Milwaukee, 5-team East race should be fun. Michael Lee from The Athletic. Read that piece on Elton Brand. What an amazing story. And Elton, by the way, if you go to a game, you probably see him sitting right in the front row there. How many GMs you see sitting right front row just hanging out with the media, right?
Yeah, no, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be seen, he wants to be visible, and he wants to be right there in the middle of the action, you know. So that is a unique thing about him. Now you bring it up. I wish I had mentioned it in this story.
All right, Michael, appreciate it, man. We'll see you up at a game.
For sure. Thank you very much.